पर जीवना सदा पापे रहता नहीं को पुण्य
Translation, please. Can say it together. Last bhajan. Shall we? My life is always engaged in sinful activities, without a trace of pious activities. I'm always inclined to give great anxiety and trouble to other living entities. For my personal sense gratification, I never reject any kind of sinful activity. I'm not at all merciful, and I see only to my personal interest. When others are suffering, I become very happy, and I'm always speaking lies. And if someone is suffering, that is very pleasant to me. I have lots of material desires within my heart, and I'm always angry and deceitful. I'm captivated by subject matters of sense gratification, and I'm almost crazy. My ornaments are malice and false pride. I'm conquered by sleep and laziness, and I'm always averse to pious activities. But I am very enthusiastic to perform impious activities. I always cheat others from my prestige, and I am conquered by greed, and I'm always lusty. I am so fallen, I have no association with devotees, and I am always an offender. In my life, there is not a bit of auspicious activity, and my mind is always attracted by something mischievous. Therefore, at the fag end of my life, I have become almost an invalid because of all such sufferings. Now in my old age, with no alternative, I have by force become very humble and meek. Thus Bhaktivinoda offers this sad statement of his life's activities at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Before we go to the next bhajan, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande, which you can now, I'd just like to take this opportunity to say, there is no such thing as mischievous. It's mischievous. Next. Deva, Krishna, mischievous. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Nijapara Pankaja Mankarande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Yadapi Samadishu Vidhirapi Pashyati. Natavanaka Gramarichin. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Dinam Shami Shamyakarachita. Tadapi Krita Bhuti Dichin. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Bhakti-rudam Shakti Yadyapi Madhava. Natvai Mama Tila Matri. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Parameshvara Tadapi Savadika. Durgata Gatana Vidatri. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Lalita Dutara Savaram Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Jiva Satu Nityamiham Ritanindati Innam Madhuri Masaram Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you. Please fix my bee-like mind in the nectar of your lotus feet. O Achyuta, although the great Lord Brahma, in his trance of samadhi, is unable to see even a particle of the effulgence emanating from the tips of the nails of your lotus feet, still I desire this vision, for I have heard of the wonderful ways of your mercy. O Madhava, although my devotion for you does not come forth even a little bit, because you are the Supreme Lord above all, you are the accomplisher of the impossible. O Sanatan, your lotus feet surpass even the nectar of the gods. Finding in this lotus flower of your feet the essence of sweetness, which is endowed with truly wonderful mellows, I pray that today the bee of my mind may eternally reside there. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande Deva Bhavantam Kesava Kalimala Hare. No, it's the other one. What's the other one? Huh? Krishna Jinkanam He Gokula Jinka Dam He. Aishe Shri Bhagavana Ko Mere Barambara Pranam. Hey! Yashika Maya Hey Nanda Jiva Paya Hey Come on now. Vrindavan. Lika Dadi Makanda Kayo Bala Bala Sangati Shurayo I say Lila Damako Mere Barambara Pranam. Hey! hate gajaku panda chudayo. I say Kripa Dhamma ko mere bar bar pranam. Hey. Panda Bhakto Gita Machayo Ajna Prabhu Padesha Sunayo. I say Dinanatha ko mere bar bar pranam. Bhajare, hey, Radha Govinda Gopala Hare. Hey! Radhe Govinda, lift. Radhe Gopala. Radha Shama Sundar, lift. Radha Madan Gopal, there we go. Radha Madan Mohan, everyone together. Radha Madhava, Radha Bhakti Hari, Radha Damodara, Radha Giri Hari, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gopinatha, Radha Gopi Ballava, Radha Kishore Gopinath, Radha Kishore, Radha Kunja Bihari, Radha Landavishvara, Gandharvika Giri Hari, Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Perishvara, Radha Patrasarthi, Radha Radhanatha, Radha Ramana, Radha Rasbihari, Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Rukmini Gopati, Kishore Kishori, Radha Govinda, Radha Kavichandri, Bhajare, hey! Govinda Gopala Hare. Hey! I say Shri Bhagavana ko mere barambar pranam. I say Shri Jnana Shyama ko mere barambar pranam. Shri Jnana Shyama ko mere barambar pranam. Go Premanande, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Divinity Divine Service, English, please. Did anybody here memorize all the English yet? No? It's not hard. Just try to, but how many days? 27 only. Okay, so at least 1.5 per day. Okay, let's try. Ugrashrava, Sutta Goswami. Ugrashrava means what? Shrava means hearing, and Ugra means ferocious. Ferocious hearer. Because he heard so ferociously. So that's the secret to success. Vetatam saumi tat sarvam tat vadastananugraha druyu snigdasishishasha guravo guyamapyata. It's mentioned in the first chapter that Sutta Goswami glorified, you're gentle, you're a gentle soul. Vetatvam saumya tat sarvam tat vadastananugraha. You know everything about everything. Why? Because you listened so carefully to all your teachers. A ferocious hearer, Ugrashava. Ugrashava, Sutta Goswami, the son of Roma Harshan, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply. Srila Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage Shukadev Goswami, who could enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher castes. His father, Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'O my son!' Indeed, only the trees, which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation, echoed in response to the bereaved father. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Shuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who, out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge, after having personally assimilated it by experience. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the three modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance. And just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the three qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these three, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. Firewood is a transformation of earth, but smoke is better than the raw wood, and fire is still better, for by fire we can derive the benefits of superior knowledge through Vedic sacrifices. Similarly, passion, rajas, is better than ignorance, tamas, but goodness, sattva, is best, because by goodness one can come to realize the absolute truth. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions, and thus derive the ultimate benefit. However, follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world. Those who are serious about liberation are certainly non-envious, and they respect all, yet they reject the horrible and ghastly forms of the demigods, and worship only the all-blissful forms of Lord Vishnu and his plenary portions. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance worship those in the same category, namely the forefathers, other living beings, and the demigods who are in charge of cosmic activities. For they are urged by a desire to be materially benefited with women, wealth, power, and progeny. In the revealed scriptures, the ultimate object of knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The purpose of performing sacrifice is to please him. Yoga is for realizing him. All fruitive activities are ultimately rewarded by him only. He is supreme knowledge, and all severe austerities are performed to know him. Religion, dharma, is rendering loving service unto him. He is the supreme goal of life. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. After creating the material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enters into it. And although he appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. The Lord as Supersoul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature, and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Let's end the Bhaktivedanta translations of the first canto, second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Divinity and Divine Service. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Bhagavatam class. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Is there any particular verse recorded?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Yashodanandana Brajajanarajana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Premanande, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. If you get a book stand, then probably a book will come in. You have to prepare the field for Krishna to appear. I'd like to give a mention of our dear Dhruv, who's in Vrindavan now, the intrepid. He's finished his school, got his diploma, actually showed it to us yesterday. It looks very beautiful. UCLA he graduated from. And then he made his way, a pilgrim's journey to Vrindavan. It was his heartfelt desire growing up that he would spend some time in Vrindavan, so after he finished his college, he headed that way, arrived 3 days ago, via Bali, where he connected with the local ISKCON temple, who welcomed him with a hero's welcome, and that's the case whenever you travel around the world under the protection of the internal potency on your way to Vrindavan, that wherever you go, you'll be warmly welcomed and Krishna will make all arrangements for you. And whatever facility one gets on the way to Vrindavan, one feels happy with. A little khichdi, some lime, salt, maybe a papadum on the side, and mango pickle if you're really lucky. And then just a place to lie down, and then dream about entering into the Dham. The journey was memorialized by Akrura, who came to the Dham on a dastardly mission to pick up Krishna and Balaram and bring them back to Mathura, with the evil intent Kamsa had of trying to kill them and so forth. But even as he entered Vrindavan, he was meditating on how Krishna would place his lotus palm on his head or his shoulder and give him a benediction. He's thinking how it was all worth it. And in the course of his life, Providence had brought him to this position. And now, like a log endlessly floating down a river, which finally comes to the shore, he had this opportunity to personally come in contact with Krishna in Vrindavan. So Dhruv made his way there, and then he stopped for a day or so in Thailand, and then he came to Vrindavan, and he led the Guru Puja yesterday. Yay! That included the parikram. After they did the Guru Puja in Vrindavan, the Srila Prabhupada comes out, the small murti, and they circumambulate the entire temple 3 times and end up in Prabhupada's samadhi with an uproarious kirtan, which Panchagoda, the temple president there in Vrindavan, took over from him. And I had arranged for Panchagoda to meet Dhruv, which he did yesterday briefly. And there were several devotees there looking out for him, not the least of which are the great Pandit, Sri Mukunda Datto, and his illustrious wife, Srimurti. They've taken him under their wing, and other devotees have noticed that he's there. So prayer out to Dhruv, his first extended stay in Vrindavan. He's been there for pilgrimage before, but he wanted to go and sit down there and feel what it's like to just be absorbed in hearing and chanting. And this morning also, you might notice, we entered into the mood of Vrindavan we sang Amara Jivana. One should be very humble. Devavrata brought it up, so we kept that theme going. It's always compelling, isn't it? Amazingly, when we hear Amara Jivana and the dainya, or utter humility of the heart of a Vaishnava expressed in words, articulated that is, and the ways in which he feels himself to be devoid of any good qualities, in fact, not just devoid of good qualities, but to be proactive in bad qualities. And somehow that resonates, and I remember when we were having programs at our home in Burlingame, California, of all places, and devotees were coming over. I had one copy of the Sharanagati is a devotee, Sharanagati Devi Dasi, Sharanagati, and we were reading it together, and the devotees were so taken by the first section of the Sharanagati, which has an explication of the processes of surrender to Krishna beginning in that book with humility, that they all wanted a copy. So I called the translator to ask for a copy, and he said, well, if you want a copy, you're going to have to reprint it because it's out of print. And the devotees didn't hesitate to put together several $1,000s to make another printing of that book because they were so inspired by hearing just that first section of the Sharanagati about surrender and the feeling of humility that one has. It's somehow centering to admit one's faults in front of Krishna and pray to remain engaged in his service despite one's faults. Krishna's mood is apichatsuracharo bhajate mamananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyag vyavasito hisa. And that is that if one's intention is properly situated, in other words, if one's sincere and wants to make advancement, even if one makes a grievous error, one should continue in devotional service and not give up, because Krishna then says, Shri Prambhavati Dharmatma, Shashvash Shantim Nagashati Konteya Pratijani Hi Nami Bhakta Pranashati, that by the power of the process of devotional service, one will become purified and come to the perfectional stage. Whomever one might be. It doesn't matter what position of life one's in now. Even if you're an animal. Animals, if they somehow or other remember their past lives and are able to stay engaged in devotional service or stay near devotees, they can also come to the perfectional stage, as evidenced by Gajendra. So then we sang the song, which is a prayer by Rupa Goswami, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Did it remind you of Janmashtami Day? Because we always sing that on Janmashtami. And I figured it was nice to have a warm-up to get ready. And in that prayer, Rupa Goswami is remembering the sweetness of Krishna. And he compares himself to a bee. And please let me, as a bee, bees are, of all the creatures, bees and ants, they have one-pointed attention. What's a verse in the Divinity and Divine Service that advocates that we have one-pointed attention on devotional service? For 20 points. Okay, somebody take a microphone and say it individually. Go ahead, Krishnasaka, you were first.
Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Prati Srotavya Kirtitavyascha Dhyaya Pujyascha Nityada.
Explain it.
With one-pointed attention, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sattvatam Pati, who is maintainer of the devotees. Tasmadekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati Srotavya Kirtitavyascha Dhyaya Pujyascha Nityada. One should hear about, chant, and remember him. Dhyaya Pujyascha Nitya, always.
Pujas.
Worship.
Yeah. Anyways, etc. Very good. So bees, they go right for the flower. If you get in their way, they'll go around you. If you block them, they'll sting you. And they just go right in and they take the nectar and they go to the next flower. So Rupa Goswami is praying that his bee-like mind may enter into the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet, the sweetness there. And this is the secret to success, is to taste the sweetness of devotional service. And that sweetness is especially available in Vrindavan, because there Krishna is himself, God without any role-playing. He's just himself at home. And he has intimate, loving relationships with his devotees. So much so, Mayam Ragam Dayite Yipsipan Anvadavan, it's mentioned by Karabhajana Muni that he becomes controlled by the love of his devotees. And those who live here in this world can also develop this attraction to Krishna and a relationship that's so deep, even if you live in, give a shout out, Mountain View or Fremont or Cupertino, otherwise known as Cupertino. Anywhere else? South San Francisco? Saratoga, that's a pretty fancy place. Could you do it from there? Yes. And the Brahma explains how Jnane prayasa murapasya namanta eva jivanti san mukharitam bhavadiya vartam stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan manobir I prayasu jita jito pyasitais trilokyam. That if you live in Mountain View, Fremont, Saratoga, Cupertino, even Burlingame, if stane stita, you apply yourself steadily, you get your bhajan going, and you hear about Krishna in the association of devotees, then one will develop this mood of attraction to Krishna that's so attractive to him that he becomes controlled by it. And the unconquerable becomes conquered by the love of the devotee. So devotional service has no impediment. And the kind of devotional service in which we don't expect any material reward and which goes on without stoppage is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam second chapter of the first canto, correct? Who would take the microphone and say the verse? Say where it is and then talk about it.
Savai pum sum paro dharmo yator bhaktir adhoksajay ahitikiya pratiyata yayatmam supersediti. 1, 2, 8, I believe.
6.
Minus 2. So, savai pum sum paro dharmo. Paro dharmo, the best type of religion is that religion which is savai pum sum paro dharmo yator bhaktir adhoksajay. Devotional service which is rendered onto adhoksaja, Krishna who is beyond the purview of the mind and senses. Ahoitikiya pratiyata, the quality of that service should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Ye atmam supersediti, to fully satisfy the self.
Very good. And in the divinity and divine service, we learn that Vishnu, Krishna, is the best. Why is he the best? According to that chapter. Say what? I can't hear anything out there. Because what? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
So people in mode of goodness, they worship Lord Vishnu and they can derive the ultimate benefit.
Okay, quote a verse or some verses. Divinity Divine Service. Only. Okay, so
it talks about the firewood, smoke and fire. So fire is one can derive ultimate benefit from the fire. So
correct.
One has to come to the goodness. by which one can worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu to derive the ultimate benefit.
Okay, verse number? Okay, we got more too.
Pādivā dharano.
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Pādivā dharano doma tasmāt agni trayi mayaha tamasasto rajas sattvam tasmāt
Sattvam yad.
brahmadarshanam.
Nice. Kotakarnav.
I had the same verse in my mind, but I can add one more. Sattvam rajastama iti prakrite gunaste yukta para purusha iha siddhate.
Eka iha siddhate.
Eka iha siddhate. Sthiti adair harivarinchi hareti samagnya shriyamsi tatra khalu sattvatanor nirnamsyu. That Krishna has created... Krishna has taken different qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu and Lord Shiva in order to do the creation, maintenance and destruction. But out of all these three, one can derive the ultimate benefit from Vishnu because he is situated in transcendental position.
Form of the quality of goodness.
Yes.
And one more, I want one more. Okay, Sundar. Sundar, straight back to the left. We'll get back to you, David Vrata Prabhu.
I was remembering this verse, Prabhu. Shrmata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridayantasto Hiyabhadrane Vidunoti Surusatam. So when we hear about Krishna and his holy name, pastimes, then it in itself is a virtuous activity. And Krishna being merciful, he removes all the abhadras or anarthas from our heart because he is the suhrit or the well-wishing friend of everyone.
Always a welcome verse. Very good. Give one more verse that's okay. A Paragarangi shot from a cannon. This is establishing that Vishnu is beyond the modes of material nature, therefore giving one's attention to Vishnu beyond the modes of material nature when it contained the highest benefit in life.
I don't remember the Sanskrit, but the translation of the last verse says that those who are in mode of pure goodness, Vishnu can reclaim them. So that is also the quality of Lord Vishnu.
Who is it, according to that verse, who worshipped? And that's a giveaway because of the declension of the word, who worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is above the three modes of material nature. Okay, yes.
I looked at it and I'm saying, this is the Bhejire Munnayo Thagre, Bhagavantam Adhokshajam, Shatvam Vishuddham Shemaya, Kalpante Yenutaniha. And I'll just read the translation. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature.
Three modes.
They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world.
Very good. See, education's not about necessarily knowing everything, it's about knowing where to look it up. So we have at least three verses that we've mentioned, and we can throw in Sundar Prabhu's also, about how the Lord is above the three modes of material nature. We had Partiva Dharano Dumas, Tasmadagnis Trayimayaha, Tamasastu Rajas Tasmat, Sattvam Yad Brahmadarshanam. That this verse mentions that one can, those who are in goodness, who cultivate goodness, can take advantage most readily of the practice of spiritual life, because Sattvam Yad Brahmadarshanam, from Sattva one can understand the difference between matter and spirit and accordingly adjust one's worship and attention. And then we had Sattvam Rajastamayiti Prakritir Gunastayar Yukta Para Purusha Eka Ihasyadate Stityade Hari Varinchi Hareti Samgya Shreyamsi Tattva Kalu Sattva Tanor Nirdam Suhu, which delineates the various deities in this world, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and says of all of them, Vishnu is the best because he's the form of the quality of goodness. And then we also had Bejare Munayo Tagre Bhagavan Ham Adhoksajam Sattvam Bishudham Shemaya Kalpante Yenutani. Very encouraging verse because it says, previously the great sages, Agre, previously these great sages worshipped the personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who is beyond the three modes of material nature. They did that to attain the highest benefit of life. Shemaya. Everything that's attainable can be had by worshipping Lord Vishnu properly. And if one follows in the footsteps of those sages, then one's eligible for the same result. So those are three that are really important. What are their numbers? Okay, say the verse and then which number it is. Partiva Darudumas is 24. Then we have Sattvam Rajas Tamayiti, right next to each other. And then Bejire, 23, 24, 25. So the theme is there. It's good to remember by theme, right? That's what you do. So we can remember those right in a row and keep those in our Rolodex up here. You don't even know what that is. So then I would like to have some corresponding verses from the Brahma Samhita that match those three verses in one way or another for 25 points each. Okay, Mayapur Bihari's, the wheels are turning, I can tell by the look on his face. Does anybody have any idea from the Brahma Samhita? What is it? Go ahead. Just, you can barely ever go wrong in this endeavor. It's whatever you say, it's going to have some transcendental meaning.
I don't remember the entire verse, but Goloka Namni Dija.
Nijadamni Tale Tatasya Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitascha Yena Govindamari Purusham Tamaham. Okay, now support your position. Defend it. Goloka Namni Nijadamni Taleta Tasya Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu. It's naming the gradations of the world. It says lowest of all is located Devidam. Where are we now? Correct. Good to know. Above Devidam is Maheshdam. It's sort of an interim place. It's not material, not spiritual. It's like, it's right on the cusp of the spiritual and the material world. And then you have Haridam. Where's Haridam? Vaikuntha. One of those emojis. Who says you're looking up to Haridam? Which Rig Veda mantra? For South Indians. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Pashanti Suryoho. They're always looking up. Those who are walking in this world, they may be moving about here, but their goal is always they're looking up to the supreme abode of the Lord. And Haridam means Vaikuntha. Who lives in Vaikuntha? Vishnu, Narayan, and then what's above that? Goloka. Who lives in Goloka? Yay! So we have these gradations. So tell why you quoted that. Be inventive. There you go. We're looking for parallels to those who worship the Supreme Lord who's above the modes of material nature can attain the highest benefit in life. Connect it.
In the Divinity and Divine, we were referring to verses that talk about how worshiping Vishnu means that we can overcome our senses, and he is also beyond our senses. And in this verse, in the Brahma Samhita, it talks about the different variations in the world and the different levels, and it says the ultimate goal or the ultimate location is Goloka, Krishna's realm, and we can think about that in our process of devotional service, that should be the ultimate goal, because we don't want to be in lower levels when we can go to the ultimate level and there's no coming back.
Bravo. That's well done. Now, we have to know all the verses not all of them, but the key verses. Like I saw Carl Sagan, it's a video, he's in a library, and he's up on the mezzanine where there's long rows of books, and he says, now if you were to read a book a month for your whole life, and then he named how many books that would be. Balaram can figure that out. And then he said, okay, 20,000 books or whatever it is. He said, I'll show you how many that is. And he started on one side, and he walked all the way down, pointing to the rows of books, and he said it would be all the way to here. You'd read all those books. Then he turned to the camera and said, but it's not how many books you read, it's which books you read. And if we learn the essential verses, divinity and divine service, for instance, and then the whole Brahma Samhita, should know backwards and forwards, but then Bhagavad Gita. And then if you know how to relate those one to another and develop a thread in your mind, just one thing goes to the next, they all interlock, like you just did. And this is called Shastra Sunipuna. And it's one of the qualifications for the Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari, the beginning devotee, has Komal Shraddha, very weak faith, supple, don't call it weak faith, Vaisesika Dasa. It's very, it's tender. That's nicer. It's tender faith. It's tender faith. And then the Madhyama Adhikari's faith is very strong. But the Kanishta and the Madhyam have something in common, and that is that they can't explicate their position through Shastra. And then there's the Uttama Adhikari, which means the topmost. And the topmost, when he has strong faith and is able to do Shastra Sunipana, that is, put together an explanation by quoting praman, or evidence from the Shastra, of why certain things are true and how they relate to the absolute truth. So it takes practice in the association of devotees hearing a lot, and also remembering these verses and finding how they're well placed. Okay, let's have another one from the Brahma Samhita. Devavrat? Oh, okay. You want to give nectar instruction? Go ahead.
Vaikuntyajdarito vara mudapuri tatro piratsotsava Vrindaranya upari ramana tatro piratsotsava. Gokul, what? Govardhan idhapi gokulapate premam ratasratsana.
Kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam vivekina. Very good. Actually, even before we have full command of a verse, it's good to just put it out there anyway. I always find that making mistakes is very valuable, because then you know where the weakness in the chain is, and you can go back later and then fill it in. Okay, tell about the verse and how you're using it, please.
Well, just following up on this verse, Gokul and Nijadami Taleta Tasya, that I was just thinking, even within Gokul, there's gradations there. Vaikunthaj, there's Vaikunta, and then you enter into Gokul, and then within Gokul there's Govardhan, there's Vrindavan, and finally there's Radhakund. So even within the spiritual world, there's gradations of quality according to the mood of service which you have to facilitate that mood of service.
Wow, that's nice. This is nice. Okay, very nice.
But right after that,
yes,
I don't know it, but it's Karmi Bhyas.
Karmi Bhya Parito Hare Priyataya Vyaktim Yayur Gyaninas Tebyo Gyani Vimukta Bhakti Parama Prema Kanishtasthata Tebyasta Pashupala Pankajadrishasta Byopi Radhika Preshtas Tadvad Iyam Tadiya Sarasi Tam Nashayetka Kriti.
This is gradations of people, gradations of living entities, and the devotional disposition that they carry. So karmis, they don't really carry any devotional disposition. And then beyond them, there's those who are aspiring sadhakas, and then there's premi bhaktas, and then even within the realm of premi bhaktas, the topmost is the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, and amongst them, Srimati Radharani is the highest.
Bravo. Okay, I have a deeper question for you about the karmis, the karmakandis. Who in the Bhagavatam, mentioned in the 10th canto, giving it all away, I hope, was a karmakandi, the best of all karmakandis, but one time he gave in charity to a qualified brahmana. He helped him build a temple for a beautiful deity, and he also gave him, by the request of the brahmana, sets of Bhagavatams and Bhagavad Gitas. And because of that, although he is a karmakandi, ... I won't say any more. Yes, Balaram.
This is King Riga, and he was a very pious soul, but was a karmakandi as well, and he would perform many sacrifices to basically win the game and win his life and become like the best person. And somehow still there was always an opportunity for him to make a mistake, and that did happen. And he, with some misunderstanding, he offended two brahmanas, and they cursed him to become a lizard in the next life. And I also remember that when we were reading this pastime in Yujyam, we were wondering why that happened to him. And it was because of some ancient offense that he had committed a long time ago. And so karmakandis, or the karmis in general, they're not able to counteract their karma because they keep adding to it. So if there's something that's still there that's from their past, it can come and bite them again. They're not protected by Krishna.
And tell the other side too. What Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says gave him the opportunity as a karmakandi to come directly in contact with Krishna.
That's right. So from that curse, he was situated in a well near where Krishna was one day when he was a king in Dwarka, and I think his sons were playing in the forest, and they found this big lizard in a well, and so they called Krishna over, and Krishna reached in and touched him, and he turned into a Gandharva. I'm forgetting exactly who, but he turned into a celestial body, and he offered his prayers to Krishna and realized his position.
And why did he get that opportunity?
Because he distributed Bhagavatam?
That's right, because he... You know the point I'm trying to come to. It's in the commentary. You can't make this stuff up. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, someone came to him, a Brahmin, and said, can you donate some Bhagavatams? And he said, yes. And he provided for that, and that's why he got the opportunity to meet Krishna face to face. I rest our case. Okay, so now I'm still looking for Brahma Samhita related. Oh, okay, you're hot on the trail. So say what it is you're going to prove, and then put the verses together.
Like how the Vishnu or Krishna is the supreme, and then he's beyond the modes of the nature. So
and then it's a comparison also between Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, right?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So in the first verse of the Brahma Samhita, it says, Isvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. So Isvara is like, he's the controller of everything, Isvara. Parama is the supreme of all, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Anadir, there is no cause for him and his beginning. So he's beyond the modes of material nature. Most of living entities are within the modes, but he's beyond. Anadir Govinda, Sarva Karan Karan, and he's the cause of everything.
Okay, that's good. That's a catch-all verse. Now give me some specifics.
So in Divinity and Divine Service, we have Sattvam, Rajas, Tama, iti Prakritir Gunas there. So in Brahma Samhita, there is a verse, Sattvam, Vishuddham, Kshemaya. So Maya hiyasya jagadan, Maya hiyasya jagadanda satani sute, Traigunya Veda
Traigunya Tad Vishaya
Veda Vitaya Mana, Sattvam, Vishuddham, Sattva
Parasattvam Vishuddha Sattvam
Govindamadi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. So in this verse, it is said that I worship Lord Govinda, whose potency is the external energy, who encompasses all the three sattva, rajas, and tamas, and he is beyond sattvam, vishuddham, vishuddha sattvam. So.
Okay, that's a good verse. Somebody tell me, and I want to get to the other verses that are specifically about Brahma and Vishnu, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in the Brahma Samhita. But before we go there, somebody give me a parallel verse from the Bhagavad Gita that matches the verse that he just said. Mayahi yasya jagadanda shatani sute traigunyatad vishaya veda vitayama sadvavalambi parasatvam vishuddha sattvam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami can be seen as a parallel verse to which verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Kotakarnava for 32 points.
Daivihi esha gunmai maya duratya mamevi prapadyante maya metam tarantide.
Tell how it's parallel.
So Krishna's external energy is Daivi, is Gunmai. Gunmai, it has three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And it is impossible to surmount it unless when one surrenders to Krishna, then one can go up beyond it.
That's very good. But if you know more, please say more. There's another verse. Yes.
Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat advakti murtaniya matstani sarvabhutani naham tveshvasha ashvata.
Na chaham teshvavastita. Go ahead.
This is Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita that this material energy is my energy, and everything is coming from that unmanifested energy. This material world is just coming from me only.
Okay, that's another one. Okay, Sundar, I can see he's done a Vulcan mind meld and he knows the verse I was thinking of.
I was remembering this was Promaya Dakshina Prakriti. Suyate Characharam Hetunaneni Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. So Krishna is saying in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that this whole material energy is working under his direction. And then it's causing the, creation and destruction.
Okay.
Dissolution continuously.
Okay, very good. I was thinking tree beer, Gunamayir Bhavi. Go ahead. We need a microphone in the front, fast.
So I was thinking about Matta Bhartaram Na Anyat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya Mahi Sarvam Idam Protam Sutre Mani Ganaiva. So here Krishna is saying Matta Bhartaram Na Anyat. There is no one above me. So which can include Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva as well. So
very good. Okay. Yeah. So in the Brahma Samhita also we have specific mention of Brahma and Shiva, don't we? Yes. What about Ganesh? Is he in there? Okay. So let's say which verse is about Shiva in the Brahma Samhita. Shiram yatada vikada vishesha yoga sanjayate nahitata pradagasti heto yashambhutam apitata samupaiti karyat govinda mari purusham tamaham bhajami. So Vishnu and Shiva exactly the same. True or false? Kind of true, kind of false? If you agreed with kind of true and kind of false, support your answer. Srivas Pandit, we have a Pandit in the back row. Give him the microphone. Let's hear from him. How is it kind of true and kind of false? Vishnu, Shiva, exactly the same.
Hare Krishna. So in the Gunavataras, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam and in many places in the scriptures. Vishnu says that I am non-different from Shiva, but at the same time we can see how Shiva is always meditating on Vishnu, which means that they are not the same either. But for the sake of carrying out the gunas or the modes of material nature, they assume the same forms.
Okay, there's evidence like that throughout the Bhagavatam. But tell me about this specific verse. Okay, Shraddha Devi Dasi in the back. She's going to tell the metaphor in this verse.
Hare Krishna Guru.
Anybody here cook? Nobody?
Kennedy.
We're going to have cooking classes next. Okay, go ahead, Shraddha.
Maharaj, I don't know the exact verse, but from Brahma Samhita where it says, just as the light from one candle, is propagated to
No, but
other
I already
candles.
quoted the verse. Is Shiram Yatada Dvikara Vishesha Yoga. What's that verse in relationship to Shiva? What's the metaphor?
Yes, so Shiva is like the glance. He's like Shambhu is the glance of Krishna.
That's in the beginning of the Brahma Samhita. This one, Shira. What's Shira? Shiram Yata. Just like milk, when it's touched by a little
acid.
Yeah, you can use buttermilk. You can use a little lemon, right? Some lemon salts, something like that. A little juice. Then what happens to it?
It becomes curd.
It becomes curd, right? So shiram yatada dvikara vishesha yoga sanjayate nihitata pratagaste heto. So Shiva and Vishnu, same, but not the same. Just like yogurt comes from milk, but it can't be used as milk. Whereas milk can be used for so many things. So that's the example given in the Brahma Samhita specifically about how they're almost the same. But for extra credit, what is the verse in the Padma Purana that says you shouldn't consider Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu to be the same, otherwise you're a Prashandi.
Sivasya Sri Vishnu.
Yes to Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai. Samatvenaina Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhavedruvam. It's a fixed principle that if you consider Brahma and Shiva and Vishnu to be the same, you're really out of it. Okay, and then now do the Brahma verse. In the Brahma Samhita, which verse from the Brahma Samhita is specifically about Brahma? Hey, hiding out over there. Sadhu.
I forgot the Sanskrit, but
Basvan, Yatasma.
Yata Shusakaleshu Nijeshu Teja.
Swiyam Kiyat.
Swiham Hiyatya
Prakatayat Tavidat Tadasya. Brahma Esha Jagadanda Vidanakarta Govindamadi Purusham Tamam. Tell what it is.
Lord Brahma says that he gets the energy to create the whole material universe from the Lord, and that he gives the analogy of how the sun, it distributes its light to the whole world.
Okay. All right, somebody bring a chair right over here, an extra chair, quick. Shastra Sar, come up here. I want you to summarize everything we've said so far. Come on, hurry. Bring him up. You have to, Shastra Sar, you got to live up to your name. Shastra Sar Prada, he distributes the essence of the Shastra. Shastra Sar Prada. Pray hard. Come up here, pray hard. No, you got to channel this. Just go into samadhi. Give us a little samadhi bhasha. Out of your mind, more into your heart and intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and just give us a flowing summary of what we've discussed so far. To the best of your ability, try to make a few mistakes so we don't feel bad. Go ahead. First, I offer my respectful obeisances.
I offer my respectful obeisances to my Guru Maharaj, as well as to Srila Prabhupada. I pray that they give me the strength to accurately and succinctly describe everything that has been discussed so far.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we are in this world in which there's material nature. Material nature has three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. These three modes, Krishna does the job, as described in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, of reclaiming souls in the mode of pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. And in order to cross these three modes of material nature, Maya is described to be Duratyaya in Bhagavad Gita, very, very difficult to overcome. So the only way to cross over Maya is through, Krishna says, Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Certainly those who surrender unto me, they can very easily cross over Maya. So the process is to surrender unto Krishna. Then, so we talked about this world and surrendering to Krishna, and Krishna reclaiming those in Shuddha Sattva, and how it can only be attained. The only way to attain and completely surrender to Krishna is through bhakti. And regarding Lord Shiva, the verse was quoted, Kshiram yathadati vikara vishesha yogat, that Lord Shiva is like yogurt and Krishna is like milk. Yogurt and Lord Shiva is basically almost Vishnu, not quite Vishnu though, because it's Krishna himself. Krishna himself never comes into contact with the material gunas that have been described. He simply saves people from them. Lord Shiva, however, does the job of also coming into contact with the material gunas. Therefore, he cannot be the same as Krishna. Similarly, Krishna is like milk, but if you put some acid into that milk, it becomes yogurt. So Lord Shiva is like that. But at the same time, Lord Shiva should not be considered to be like any other demigod, because he also has a spiritual abode, as described by in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Rupa Goswami says that he has a spiritual abode, Kailash Dham, and Kailash Dham, he says, doesn't even have a fragrance of Maya there, and anyone who goes there does not return to the material world. So Lord Shiva at the same time is not an ordinary demigod, so he's Shiva. So then we talked about Brahma. Brahma is empowered by the Lord in order to do his job of creation. And just as the sun spreads its light everywhere, similarly Lord Brahma himself, at the beginning, it's described how he prays to the Lord and he hears the flute sound of Krishna, and he gets the instruction to do austerity. So through that, he gets the strength to do his seva.
Okay. Kumari Leela, here, give me the mic. Kumari Leela, come on up. Give her a hand. Welcome her. Anything that you've heard so far that's stuck in your mind, just sit down and give us a little of the summary, something practical we can take with us.
First of all, I offer my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, my dear Guru Maharaj, and His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu, Nirukula Mataji, and all the assembled Vaishnavas in front of the deities to give me the strength and right intelligence to come out the right words at the right moment, which can help to bring out the little bit of essence that whatever we have been discussed so far. So, we have discussed a lot. We started with the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 2, where so many devotees has been recited. So that is eye-opening, at least for me, to know the meaning along with the verses, forward and reverse. Then we connected those like 3 modes of material natures, how has been described in the 2nd chapter in Divine and Divinity Service, connected to Brahma Samhita, connected to nectar of instruction, connected to Bhagavad Gita, and bring out the essence that, we have 3 modes of material nature in this world, ignorance, passion, and goodness. Nobody is like, being in this material world, everyone is come in touch with 3 of these, but being in the right connection of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's like the point connecting to the not like how many books you read, but which book you read, and that's connecting back to the Srimad Bhagavatam, that if you are focusing on that, ultimately you can get connected to the right knowledge, which can help you to go beyond those modes and connecting to the ultimate source of the truth, to the milk, to Krishna, and go back to Golokanamni Nijadhamni Tale Chatasya.
And now Tejas Prabhu will come up and tell a story from the Bhagavatam about the difference between Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. We want a story. A hint, the main character's name starts with a B, and then an R, and then a G, then a U. And his last name starts with an M.
Hare Krishna.
What?
Yes. Okay. I'd first like to offer my obeisances to Vaisesika Prabhu, and then to Srila Prabhupada and the rest of the previous acharyas headed by Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis, and to all the assembled Vaishnavas. And I pray to all of them that they may help me in saying the right words at the right time. So the story that is of Bhrigu Muni, and so basically he was trying to figure out who is the supreme of all deities. And so first he approached his father, who was Brahma, and when he approached him, Brahma was quite eager to see him because he hadn't seen his son in a long time. And the first thing you do if you're the son is that you go and offer obeisances to your father. But what Bhrigu did was the complete opposite. Rather, he just stood there and completely ignored him in a way. And as a result, Brahma was very angered by this. And so Bhrigu Muni then, when he got this conclusion that Brahma cannot be the supreme because he's angered by this action. So he next approached Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is the greatest of all Vaishnavas, and also his brother. But when Bhrigu Muni approached him, Lord Shiva was in this mood that we're gonna have some Hari Katha going on. But Bhrigu Muni instead went and insulted him. And as a result, Lord Shiva was also offended, and Bhrigu came to the conclusion that Lord Shiva is also not the supreme. But then he approached Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu was lying down, and Lakshmi Mata was massaging his feet. But the first thing Bhrigu Muni did was that he went to him and kicked Lord Vishnu at his heart. And as we know, this is a very offensive action. But even then, Lord Vishnu did not take any offense to this. And rather, he apologized to Bhrigu Muni, saying that I've fought so many battles that my heart has become hard. I hope your feet aren't hurt. And when Bhrigu Muni heard this, he came to the final conclusion that Lord Vishnu is the supreme.
Now quote a relevant verse from the Bhagavad Gita that someone hasn't quoted yet, that relates to any of the topics, or Bhagavatam. And try to do it to the tune of this.
Regarding Krishna being the supreme, I guess the most famous verse is Ete Chamsha Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that when Suta Goswami was describing who all the incarnations of Krishna, he said of them, Krishna is supreme. And as we've throughout our whole discussion, we've shown that of all the demigods, Krishna reigns supreme, and it's also mentioned in the 12th canto, Nimnaganam Yatha Ganga Devanam Achyuto Bhava, that of all the worshipable people, Lord Achyuta is the greatest. So even amongst them, that Krishna reigns supreme amongst all of the forms that Krishna takes, like Ram, Nrsimha, etc. So I think those are some verses, Maharaj.
Thank you. And now I'm going to read you a purport from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And because we're entering now into the pastime of Krishna appearing in the world, I'm reading from the 10th canto, 1st chapter, which is entitled The Advent of Lord Krishna. And we'll keep this going over the next several days intensely to remember Krishna's appearance in this world. And this chapter starts off with a conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. And at the outset, we're given the guidance that what we're about to hear is medicinal. This verse is famous. It's a Parikshit Maharaj speaking about the topic itself about Krishna. He says a few things in this chapter. One is that Nivrittatarshar upagiyamana babhausharat shotramano birama ka uttama shloka gunanavada puman birajeta vina pashugnat. That Nivrittatarshar, this is meant for those who are no longer interested in the material world. They've given up their passionate endeavor to try to get some happiness out of the material world. There are examples of this in the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, of those who have declared that I'm done with it. One of the famous declarations comes from Devahuti. She said, I'm sick and tired of the disturbance given by my senses. And basically she says, no mas. That's it. And we also are treated to stories like the story of Puranjana. And this story is a teaching of Narada Muni to Prashina Barishat. In preaching, sometimes when we talk to someone, we can't very directly address them. We may say, if we say to them, you're doing something wrong, then they might become defensive. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah? Who did you tell? And oftentimes, the lesson doesn't go in very deeply. But Narada knew this, especially if you're a king, because kings are famous for having those who agree with him around. And almost, it's well known that kings would commission artists to paint portraits of them and sometimes write various kinds of literature. And artists and writers would very deliberately not criticize the king. Why do you think that is? Because they wanted to stay alive, basically. And get paid, too. What is this? Okay, not only not paid, you're going to be killed. So kings are not so open to criticism. They don't hear it that much. So Narada Muni very sensitively told the story of another king named Puranjana, and he was looking for happiness in the material world. And where did he look? Everywhere. And then he had a happenstance meeting with a young woman in a park, and then they had a conversation. He said, where are you from? She said, I have no idea. All I know is I'm here right now. And then they decided that they would get on with their lives together. And then it takes us through a scenario in which they have ups and downs. And I'm giving the most concise summary possible. And then it shows the resultant vector. Where do they each go in their next life as a result of their absorption in their life trying to enjoy the material world? So we get to see the causality throughout the Bhagavatam in stories that we can relate to. And then we come to the 10th canto, and by the time we've come to the 10th canto, we're already divested of the notion that my meeting someone in the park will lead to happiness. Many movies end up with somebody meeting at the top of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know if you can go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, somewhere romantic, and it's like, oh, it's okay, they got together. But the Bhagavatam doesn't end there. It says, okay, yeah, that happened, but then here's what happens after that, and don't forget, there's another life, and this is what's going to happen. So there's a sobriety that comes up in the heart of listening to the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam, which is a prerequisite for reading the 10th canto, which Vikriditam Vrajava Dubriraham Cha Vishnu Shradhanvitona Shrinu Yadata Varna Yedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhyakamam Ridrogam Ashva Pahinot Yacharena Dhira. Shukadev Goswami says later in the Bhagavatam that you, by hearing these charming pastimes of Krishna with his most intimate devotees in Vrindavan, unceremonious love, one can overcome the dread disease of the heart, which is kama or lust. But he says, Shradhanvito Nashrinuhyad. You must hear with the proper context. You have to have the right faith. And that's developed by hearing the first 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam. For instance, Rishabhadev doesn't, as they say, pull any punches. We have a book that we distribute, created by Suradas, and if you knew Suradas, you'd know that this book, which is a compilation of Prabhupada's purports from the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning with Nayam Deho Deho Bhajam Driloke, Kashtan Karma Marhate Vid Bhujamye. This is a book saying that basically you're a hog and a pig for engaging in sense. He said, don't be like the hogs and pigs, you pig. Rishabhadev is very direct to his sons. He's got 100 sons, 9 of whom became the Navayogendras. One of them was Bharat Maharaj, who Bharatvarsha is named after, and so forth. And he gave these very direct instructions. And so we hear all this in the Bhagavatam. It's medicinal. It cures us from the mistaken idea that this is my ultimate destination, the material world, and that I can settle in here. And I saw a billboard the other day that said, "Get cozy." And it had somebody reclining on some kind of I didn't look at it too carefully. I just saw it and I said, yep, that's the mantra of the material world, get cozy. There used to be one for bagpiper whiskey in India, the whiskey that's caused more deaths on the road than anything else because truckers buy it, they drink it, and then they drive their trucks into a ditch and they die. But that also said, gets you cozy. So the material world, the idea of getting cozy or getting some position here is, we're divested of that. Weird way to say it, but that's what I'm saying. And then we come to the 10th canto and Nivrita Tarsher. When you're free from that delusion that this material world is a happy place and I'm meant to be comfortable and cozy here, Nivrita Tarsher Upagiyamana Bhavaushadach Chotramanam Manobirama, then you're qualified to freely drink this medicine of the 10th canto that's going to come to you now. Bhava Ashaudi. There's a way in which Bhava, which it means the material world, with all its changes that take place in our lives constantly, birth, death, old age, and disease, that's overcome by taking this medicine, deathless medicine. Bhavaushadash, Chotra Manobiramat, and you can take it through the ears. Ka Uttama Shloka Gunanavada, Puman Virajeta Vinapushugnat, and it answers the question given by the sages in the first chapter, Kova Bhagavatas Tasya Punya Shloke Dikarmana. Well, who is there desiring deliverance from the age of Kali Yuga who won't take this? They would like to know. They're acutely aware of the situation of the material world. And they say, like, who wouldn't take this? And so it's answered, Vina Pashugnat, except for people who are killing themselves. They're bent on killing themselves. They have this suicidal bent, and they're on it. And they also kill animals in the meantime, which digs their hole deeper in the material world. So then he says, does Parikshit Maharaj, that I once, while I was in the forest, made a mistake. What's the mistake that Parikshit Maharaj made when he was traveling in the forest? Huh? Yeah, he got angry, which was uncharacteristic because he's a Raja Rishi. And then providentially, he became angry at a sage because he went into the hermitage and the sage didn't recognize him, so then he hung a snake around his neck, a dead snake, and then walked out in a huff. Have you ever been in a huff? Do you know what it means? You're in a huff. He was in a huff. And then later on, he got the news that because of that little indiscretion, moment of anger, lost control of himself, now he was cursed to die. How do you like that? Yeah, that's what happens. You do a moment of indiscretion, you say something, you do something, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, the world's different for you, and it's never coming back the same way. So there's that happens here, and now we have somebody we can relate to if we've ever made a mistake. Now Parikshit Maharaj is saying, Pibam tam tvam mukambuja, chutam harikatamritam. Normally he says, Naishati dushahashunam tyaktodam apibhadate. Piban tan twan mukamboja, chutam harikatamritam. Normally, he said, before I became thirsty and then I became angry because I couldn't fulfill my thirst. He said, now I feel satisfied because I'm hearing this nectar of the Bhagavatam from you. And he says, chutam harikatamritam. I'm not thirsty, even though I'm not drinking water. I'm not tired, even though I haven't slept for days. And that's because I'm drinking something else. Chutam means falling, and Hari Katamritam. What's falling? It's like a waterfall of Hari Kata nectar coming from the mouth of Shukadev. He's speaking as like, I'm drinking that, so I'm not tired, I'm not thirsty, I'm not hungry. And then he says, Vasudeva Kata Prashna Purusham Strin Punatihi Vaktaram Prachakam Shrochims Yat Para Salilam Yata. He said this conversation that's taking place, and it's about to take place in the 10th canto, about Krishna. He said it's so powerful that it purifies everyone who's involved. And then he mentions three that are involved in this. One is the speaker, gets the most benefit. Second is the listener, gets the second most benefit. And third is everybody else in between, who happens to hear it and sit in on the talk. And everybody gets the purification from the talk, salilam yata, just like the Ganges water purifies. So similarly, this Krishna Katha purifies. So then he wants to know about Krishna's appearance. And he remembers also, this is a very sweet verse. I'm going to read it to you because when you hear this, your heart's going to melt and you're going to feel like taking more shelter of Krishna. You ready? Yes. I thought so. This is 10:1, 5 through 7. And taking the boat of Lord Krishna's lotus feet, my grandfather Arjuna and others crossed the ocean of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which the commanders, as Bhishma Dev, when such commanders as Bhishma Dev resembled great fish that could very easily have swallowed them. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, my grandfathers crossed this ocean, which was very difficult to cross, as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. Because my mother surrendered unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, the Lord, Sudarshan Chakra in hand, entered her womb and saved my body, the body of the last remaining descendant of the Kurus and the Pandavas, which was almost destroyed by the fiery weapon of Ashwatthama. Lord Sri Krishna, appearing within and without of all materially embodied living beings by his own potency in the forms of eternal time, that is, as Paramatma, and of the Virat Rupa, gave liberation to everyone, either as cruel death or as life, kindly enlighten me by describing his transcendental characteristics. Imagine entering the battlefield of Kurukshetra at the time of the war is about to break out. It's not for the faint at heart. These Kshatriyas were trained from the time they were just little. In fact, they had the nature. There was a way in which they had Kshatriya nature from the very beginning, but that was cultivated so deeply that they were impervious practically to being frightened by dangerous situations. But this was something else. What a frightening battle. Just the array of soldiers there coming together to clash with a deep hatred in their heart, this way they wanted to kill each other, and then just the sheer magnitude. There are millions of soldiers lined up, and you can imagine all the sounds there of the steel and the wagon wheels and the animals by the tens of thousands, horses and elephants and so forth. What a scene. And Arjuna, having to fight these greatest of soldiers there, practically single-handedly leading the fight, was able to cross over that insurmountable ocean. So there's this sense that comes at the beginning. Krishna Katha is so powerful, not just purifying, but it helps us to rise above the insurmountable odds of us against the material world. By the way, what's the score so far? Living entities on the scoreboard, if it's a game show. Living entity versus Maya. What does the living entity have so far? Zero. That's right. Maya always wins in the end. So because Daiva Yesha Guna Mayi. Then he asks about Sankarshan, Lord Balaram. So this starts the Katha about Krishna's appearance, because he says, my dear Shukadev, in text number 8, you have already explained that Sankarshana, who belongs to the second quadruple, appeared as the son of Rohini named Balaram. If Balaram was not transferred from one body to another, how is it possible that he was first in the womb of Devaki and then in the womb of Rohini? Kindly explain this to me. Why did Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, leave the house of his father, Vasudeva, and transfer himself to the house of Nanda in Vrindavan? Where did the Lord, the master of the Yadu dynasty, live with his relatives in Vrindavan? I'm going to read the purport. These are inquiries about the itinerary of Krishna. Just after his birth in the house of Vasudeva in Mathura, Krishna transferred himself to Gokula on the other side of the Jamuna. And after some days, he moved with his father, mother, and other relatives to Nandagram, Vrindavan. Maharaj Parikshit was very much eager to hear about Krishna's activities in Vrindavan. This entire canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is full of activities performed in Vrindavan and Dwarka. The first 14 chapters describe Krishna's Vrindavan affairs, and the next 50 describe Krishna's activities in Dwarka. Maharaj Parikshit, to fulfill his desire to hear about Krishna, requested Shukadeva Goswami to describe these activities in full detail. It's a question for you all. Do you have a desire to fulfill by hearing Krishna's pastimes? Yes. How much are you feeling it, Mayapur Bihari Prabhu? A lot. Yeah. And we get that. That's the price for advancement in devotional service that comes about by association with devotees. We may be interested in how many people went to Taylor Swift's concert. It may be interesting to me. Or I may be interested in some aspect of physics. I'm looking at some particle under a microscope for 20 years, writing a thesis paper about it. Any aspect of the material world I can be interested in. But then if I get association of those who have transferred their attention from anything categorically to do with the material world to the topics of Krishna in the spiritual world, which are divyam, transcendental, and that may happen, as Bhagavatam says, Shru Shru Shro Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Seveya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana. By association and serving those who have that attraction for the spiritual world, all get an affinity for it too. So be careful. I've seen it before. Those who hang around and listen to Krishna Katha, all of a sudden they find themselves sucked in to the Katha. That's pretty dangerous, don't you think? So we have here these questions about Krishna and Vrindavan. Prabhupada mentions that he wanted to fulfill his desire to hear about this. So he's asking question after question to elicit a response from Shukadev Goswami about the pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan. So now we're running a little short on time, so we'll take a couple of questions. Because we've churned this way, that way, and now we'll churn this way for a minute. And we have a question on the board. Who is that? Tadiya Seva. What are you doing up there? All right. Prabhu, go ahead. We can read lips. Go ahead. What's he saying? Shamalangi? Shamalangi knows these things.
Maharaj, finally I am able to unmute. Maharaj, my question is related to Arjuna. You know, I was recently reading a lot about Arjuna and how he fought with various warriors in Mahabharata. And then at the end in the Mahabharata, you know, Vasudeva writes that he went to heaven. You know, first Yudhishthira Maharaj goes to heaven, and then eventually all the Pandavas also go to heaven. My question is, but in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Antya kale cha mam eva smaran muktvaha kalevaram. When whatever you remember at the time of death, you will achieve that without failure. And he also says that, you know, think of me at the time of death and then you will come to me in Bhagavad Gita. So for me, spiritual world is different from heaven. So in this case, why Srila Vasudeva is writing in Mahabharata that Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas went to heaven instead of the spiritual world? It is a dilemma in my mind.
That's a good question. Oh, yes. Anything more? It's an excellent question, and it's a similar question to what Narada Muni asked Vyasadeva. When he meets him in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam, he said, "What are you doing?" Dritagbritush. He says anything which is separate in vision from the ultimate goal of life, of Krishna, it's just disturbance to the mind. He's severely chastising Vyasadeva in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavatam, saying, "What did you do? You wrote all these scriptures, but then where they end up? In heaven? Or trying to do some karma kanda?" He said, when you give people these options and these ideas, then that's what they're going to aspire for. So there's a couple reasons. One is that Vyasadeva wrote a bunch of bridge books. He wanted to attract the general public. And this is going on always. There's always a balance point where we're trying to reach a general audience who are accustomed to thinking of material rewards. And therefore, we may say, the Shastra may say, by doing this activity, you're going to attain some material reward. So someone might then say, okay, I'll do it then. And in the meantime, they develop some faith in that particular Shastra that helps them come to the next level, and then they start developing faith in Shastra in general. This is one of the ideas behind the very broad-based approach that Vyasadeva gave, and it's a huge project, the Vedas, to address every aspect of human society. And in that, there may be a sense of compromise because it's offered to some people to achieve the ultimate goal, which may sound like to others, hey, you fell short. And that's exactly what Narada said. There's another point about the Mahabharata, and that's that it's obviously been interpolated, which means there are various versions of the Mahabharata in which you'll find, for instance, the of various versions. There's a South Indian version, there's a North Indian version, South Indian version. It's like Vyasadeva has a wedding, and then Satyavati combination. This is all properly done. So it's been adopted in various cultures, and a particular cultural spin is put in. So then one might say, well, what's the use of the Mahabharata then? So there's a couple of answers. One is that the Bhagavad Gita is within the Mahabharata, but hasn't that been interpolated? And the answer is no, because the Bhagavad Gita, did I say Bhagavatam? I meant to say Bhagavad Gita, the 700 verses have been so carefully watched over by the acharyas who have given their commentary to it again and again, that it's not been changed one iota. And then we have Mahaprabhu, Arajo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayasta Dhamma Vrindavana, Ramya Katchidupasana Vraja Vidu Vargena Vokalpita, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam, Prema Pumarta Mahan. So this is from the Chaitanya Manjusha, which says these were the declarations, the purposes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One of them is Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. If you want to justify any statement in any Shastra, including the Mahabharata, you have to read the Bhagavatam. Because the Bhagavatam is the Amala Purana, it's perfect. And it's the one by which we justify anything else. So if you read Pandavas went to heaven, read the version in the Bhagavatam. If anything that you can't justify according to what you've learned in Shastra, you have to come to the Bhagavatam, which is the ultimate arbiter of the Siddhanta. Om Tat Sat. We'll have two more questions. Yes.
In the translation of the song Krishna Deva Bhavantam Bande, it was mentioned how Lord Brahma is not able to get a glimpse of Lord's feet, Lord's lotus feet. But we have sections in Bhagavatam where Lord Brahma was able to visualize a spiritual world. So how do we...
We have a special Brahma. There are many Brahmas. Our little universe is the smallest. And we have a little Brahma, but he's one of the speakers of the parampara. He hears directly from Krishna. So when we hear about Brahma this and Brahma that, it's in relationship more to the role of Brahma. The name Brahma is a post. It can be attained, according to the Shastra, if you perform Varnashrama perfectly for 100 lifetimes. Then you can get on the list. Plus you got to get 1,600 on your SAT. And then they'll consider you for a placement as a Brahma in some universe. So that's why Brahma, Krishna calls him Vidhi. Hey, Vidhi. Vidhi means like, hey, you know all the rules. That comes up in the in the pastime in the Bhagavatam when Brahma tries to outsmart Krishna, and even in the Brahma Samhita he calls Vidhi. So this the idea is that it's a post. So when you're talking about Brahma, it's like the highest post in the material world. You've done everything right. You went to all the best schools and everything like that. But still you don't know. Atapite deva padambuja dvaya prasada leshana grihita evati janati tatvan bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko picharam bachinban. This is something Brahma says himself. It is the Atapite deva. You may have all kinds of accomplishments, but unless you get a lesha, means a little trace. You know, like at the airport, when you go through, I got randomly selected, even though I have Nexus, which means you can go into Canada without being searched up and down. And I also have global entry, which means come back to the USA. They trust you because they've looked into every part of your life and even photographed your eyes so they can recognize you. Somehow I got randomly selected put the ticket in, it's like, you're randomly selected. I said, what does that mean? It's like, they're going to go through everything. So you never know. In any case, they have these little machines where they take a swab out. They swab your hands, they swab your bag, and then they put it in the machine to see if there's any trace of any narcotics or any bomb material. And if there is, then it ring. But it's so small. If it's a molecule, it'll show up. If you were in the vicinity of somebody that was making a bomb next door or something, it went through the window and landed on your suitcase, and you're like, yeah. So that's how small Lesha is. If you get just in the vicinity of the Vaishnavas, somehow you walk past. I heard Prabhupada talking about that this morning. He said, he told this story, it was in the newspaper in New York, around the time the Hare Krishna movement was getting big. So there was this elderly man and woman. And the woman says to the man in the cartoon, she says, chant, chant, chant. And the man looks at her and goes, can't. So Prabhupada said, we are saying chant, chant, chant. They are saying can't. He said, but still we go out, because if somebody hears the holy name, or he says, he said, we push a book into their hands. Somehow or other they buy it. He said, then they get the benediction. There's some little lesha, some connection of prasad. Prasad aleshana grihita evati janati tatvan bhagavan mahimno. Then by that, one can come to know Bhagavan. It becomes an obvious truth. It's revealed to such a person. Nachanya eko picharam bachinban. But if you don't have that, if you don't get that, it doesn't matter how great of a personality you are, how smart you are. You can be Brahma. You can have done the 100 lifetimes of following Varnashram perfectly, 1600 on the SAT, and then you're awarded, but then still you don't know Krishna. But our Brahma is different. Okay, one more. Yes, Tejas Prabhu. Please take a microphone to the quadrant 3.
Is it okay if I share a reflection, Maharaj?
Sharing means caring.
So, you were reading from the 10th canto, and there was the section where Parikshit Maharaj was talking about how his mother had prayed to Krishna so fiercely that he was able, that's why he entered into her womb. And so, my grandfather was listening to a lecture from a sadhu a couple of days ago, and this sadhu in his lecture had this realization in relation to Uttara, where he said that some women are very fortunate because devotees are born from their womb, and some people like Yashoda or Devaki, etc., had the Lord in their womb. But Uttara was the most fortunate of them all, because one of the greatest devotees, Parikshit Maharaj, and Krishna were both in her womb at the same time. So there's no one who was more fortunate than her.
Yay for the sadhus. That's what sadhus spend their time doing, is connecting things to Shastra and thinking like that. Thank you, that was very nice. Any last point? Yes, Prabhu.
The translation of the 5th verse and 6th verse, it says that the womb was almost destroyed in the body of the Parikshit Maharaj. Is it the body was completely destroyed and then it was reconstructed in the body of Parikshit Maharaj by Lord in the womb?
What does it say in the commentary? I don't have to check that. That's a technical question. We'll look at the commentary and I'll say tomorrow. Okay, one last question that I can answer. Yes.
You tell that this word, that prasad aleshanu, just by a fraction of mercy and even like Vaishnava's connection, but we also see so many examples, like even in Dhritarashtra, who was so, he got so many good association of so many souls, even his brother, but he didn't change anything. So what is that one quality that makes...
He changed. Vidura at the end came to him. He was really fortunate. He was so determined to stay attached. It's one of the ways that the Shastra tells us we can make more advancement, is learn to rise above your material attachments, because if you hold on to them, it'll slow you down. But that doesn't mean that everyone will do that. So there's a way in which Prabhupada says in the introduction to the Upadeshamrita that if you're like that and you decide that I'd like to be a devotee, but I still want to remain attached to the material world, then Krishna will drag you, kicking and screaming. So you can be dragged. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. So Dhritarashtra is it's a painful example of this weakness of heart, that he knew what to do, he knew what was right, and he couldn't do it. I think we can all relate to that to some degree, right? It's like I heard it, I know what it is. Some part of me would like to do it, but nah, not right now. Maybe next time, maybe later. Dhritarashtra had that, but he also had the mercy of Vidura, because we know at the end of his life, when he was embarrassingly staying in the home of those he tried to kill in multiple ways, or he allowed his son to try to kill, because of his attachment to Duryodhana, then Vidura came out of goodwill for his uncle, and he reminded him of what he was. Sometimes sadhus, they come to us and they say, you may think you're like this, but actually it looks really bad what you're doing here. And he told them that, when you're around, you make all these noises. It sounds like you're dying, and you are. And you're infirm, you're confused, and you're still attached. He said, let's get out of here. And so Vidura was so kind to yank him out of that. Even the rest of the devotees in the palace were shocked when he was gone. They were attached to him. So it's so easy to get comfortable here in this world and think this is my place. Even if it's a place that's eating us alive, we still think, but it's my place. I have a little corner apartment. Traffic goes by every day, keeps me up. There's exhaust coming in, but it's my little place. Everyone has some little thing here. Prabhupada said in a lecture I heard 2 days ago, where he said everyone gets attached to something in the material world. He said he was at Howrah Station, and he saw a person that had dragged some half-burned firewood a long distance, and he was carrying it along, and he was so protective of that cargo, half-burned firewood. And he said that was his attachment in the material world that he thought was so valuable. And everybody has some little burned remnant here in the world. They think like, this is mine, dragging my little firewood. So Krishna shows his mercy in many different ways. That Dhritarashtra got that through Vidura, who was so kind. Because Dhritarashtra had really been offensive to the Pandavas. And Vidura was always the well-wisher of the Pandavas. But still, he tried to save his uncle. And he forced him to go out. He didn't make it as far as he could have. Prabhupada mentions that in the commentary. Dhritarashtra could attain the highest perfection if he had started early enough. After all, he already had a royal birth. He was in a high position. He had all the association needed, but he didn't take advantage of it. But still, he was dragged by Vidura. It's such a great story about Vidura dragging him out. It gives him harsh words like, you're blowing this totally, and you got to get out of here now. And he dragged him into the forest, and he made him do Ashtanga yoga even at the last part of his life, and therefore he was able to attain the next step. He'll continue on in the next life. Only person who didn't get any benefit was Vena. That's mentioned in the Bhagavatam also. But last thing I'll say is the Vena is brought out as an example because although he had opportunity to think or hear about Krishna, he built a defense system around him where he completely ignored Krishna. He said, there is no Krishna, I'm Krishna. And so Shukadeva goes out of his way to say, everyone got benefit except for Vena. So don't be like him. even if you're the lowest of the low, still try. Do the best you can to worship Krishna in some way. And neha bikramanasho sti prativayana vidite swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. That's a guarantee that you'll be successful. Try to do what you can. And if you can do more, do more. That's the encouragement. Try to enter into this very deeply. And then Krishna will help in all ways. So we're entering into our Janmashtami ceremonies today. Is it today? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Sweepanam, Mapanam? Yes? Today and tomorrow we have such a great opportunity. We have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Sweepanam, Mapanam. That was a sign in the restaurant, Govinda's restaurant in St. Louis, created by my ingenious godbrother Suradas Prabhu, who I mentioned earlier. He had a sign. If you couldn't pay for anything, then you could do Shravanam, Kirtanam, Sweepanam, Mapanam, and we'd still feed you. So we're going to clean the temple together today and tomorrow, somewhat today and a lot tomorrow. So you can come ready to clean, and we'll only say Krishna, because that's what they did at cleaning the Gundicha Marjana. You get used to, if you need something like a mop, you say Krishna, Krishna, and then the person will understand. And if you need somebody to pass you something else, you just say Krishna, Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, if you so desire, please give us a desire to hear transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna's birth and activities in this world. Please let us all enter into the mode of complete cooperation to put on a festival for all the people who will come here, and let us be self-sacrificing so that whoever comes here will have a wonderful and welcoming experience and will be attracted to taking up devotional service. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Rajkalptarishya kripasindave vachapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Guru Puja. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama.
Grey Camry in the parking lot. If it is your car, please remove it immediately. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. If you can hear me, raise your hand. If you can hear me, say shh. If you can hear me, say choop. Okay, so these verses, the first three, we've just recently, we've come in contact with a really exalted Vaishnava named Gopati, who's a famous chef in ISKCON, and also he's one of the curators of many of the kirtans and bhajans from the old days. So we have a team working on getting those and putting them in places where we can all hear them. And part of that is one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers named Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji. He's a Babaji, which means he spent all day chanting Hare Krishna, and he was very fond of reciting verses also. So there's a recording somewhere in the library that we're helping to post and take care of it, which has the first three verses here. So I was just talking to Balaram Prabhu, who's helping to manage that project, that will bring those so you can hear them from Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji, one of Prabhupada's favorite godbrothers. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
All right. Okay, let's try chanting it. Namashreshtam Manamati Shachiputramatra Sarupam Shirupam Tasya Grajam Uruparim Makarim Goshavati Radha Kundam Girivaraya Radhika Madhavashtam Kato Yasya Satita Kripaya Shri Guru Tamatosmi Hey Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Svananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahita Prasida Radha Karnaya Vachara Hey Dina Bandho Karunaika Sindho Guru Prasada Mai Mandamudhe Vaksha Paradhe Bahupapagadhe Tatpada Padme Suma Krishna Krishna Naivo Payantya Pachitin Kavayasta Vesha Ramayusha Pikridam Ridam Udasvaranta Yontar Bahista Lubritam Ashubham Vadunvam Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Svavakim Yanakti. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Sri Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunda on Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, O giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Shri Krishna. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they are endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as a supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us a shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Sarati Sarima Bando Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jadi chao hai. Is there Bengali in the house? Give her a microphone. Give us the mood of the song. Say it first in Bengali.
Kali kukur kadan jodi chaho he.
Kali Kali
Kali Yuga meaning. So, if you want to be saved from the dog of Kali, so Kali is being compared to a dog here. If you want to be saved from him, then you have to sing the names of Shri Sachinandana, who is all auspicious in this Kali Yuga, and he can get rid of all the fears in your mind. He destroys all.
Haribo! Kali Yuga Pavana Kolbo Jarisha Ohe Kali Pavana Salimana Shana Sishati Nandana Kaohe Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rup Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Jiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath Eshai Gosai Kori Sharanavandam Jaha Hoite Vinyanash Abhishtapuram Eshai Gosai Jar Muitar Das Sansabara Pararenu Mora Panchagras Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Chaname Chaname Hoy Abilas Eshai Gosai Jabe Rajkulabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koilam Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koilam Prakash Get ready! Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Guru Vaishnava Bhari Guru Vaishnava Bhari Padma Koriyar Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Narodamodas Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. Gaura Hare Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Prabhupada Paramhamsa Privraj Kacharya Stotra Shishi Mad Bhai Sharanada Vrindavan Swayama Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privraj Kacharya Stotra Shishi Mad Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavi Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Ramakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Now we have announcement from the Bhakti community.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I hope can you please share the Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, thank you for the opportunity. As you know, Bhakti community is a community which inspires newcomers to make progress on Bhakti Yoga. So whenever you go out and give books, please also give them Bhakti community so that they can come in contact, association with Vaishnavas to make progress in their Bhakti journey. And I'm very happy to announce that the new website of Bhakti community was launched on the auspicious day of Balram Jayanti. So thank you for the entire team. So it's very simple to use. You can go to bhakticommunity.com and there you will see we have the new logo as well from Bhakti Community logo, which Yoga of the Heart. So it's inspiring hearts is what we do. Right on the top, you will see registration form. So even if you want to introduce newcomers to register, or if you want to register them on their behalf, you can just type in their name, email address, and you can type in the city. Like city is required so that in case there are any in-person programs, we can encourage them to join. And if you are referring, enter your name so that we know you referred, so that we can maybe get to additional information about them from you to help them make progress. And then just subscribe, that's all. It's pretty simple and easy. Just name, email, city, and subscribe. There are testimonials. We are thankful for some of the newcomers who have come forward. Liji has given a very nice testimonial, like how she has practiced so many other meditation practices and she was still not able to overcome anxiety, but with Bhakti Yoga and Mantra meditation, how she is now able to do that. Chuck has also very nicely given a practice with how service gives a purpose in life, and with service, he is able to make progress. And we also have Alfred from Chicago, who has given a very nice testimonial as well. So if you can share this with newcomers, what benefits they will get by joining Bhakti community. And of course, there are programs listed below. So we have Bhakti on Monday, Success Sadhana on Friday. We've got Mantra Zone, which is again on Friday, Bhakti Circle, Women's Circle. So all the programs are listed and some generic information. In addition, the various programs which are going on in the Bay Area are also listed. So they have communities like we primarily have Palo Alto, Mountain House, Fremont, and San Jose. Those programs are going on. So where in-person programs are going on, so they can also be part of this as well. So I want to thank Ramesh Prabhu. He has been very, very instrumental. Whatever Ramesh Prabhu touches, it transforms. It just becomes modern. So we are very thankful to him and the entire digital team who have put in several months of work actually to bring to a realization and make easy for our Sankirtan devotees and newcomers, to understand very quickly and simply how this is going to help them and also help them, encourage them. So thank you so much for that. So that was a nice launch on Balram Jayanti. Thank you for Ramesh Prabhu and the digital team for that. Next is a newcomer reflection. I wanted to thank Adin Prabhu. Adin Prabhu, thank you so much for encouraging Teresa to come yesterday. She did mention that she had tried various meditation programs, including, I think, silent meditation she had been practicing. And after she came to Mantra Zone program yesterday, and after the mantra meditation, she was very happy. She said, I'm refreshed, recharged, I'm happy. And during the entire program, all these stresses, etc., didn't come to her. So it was a very heartfelt reflection that she shared. So thank you, Adin Prabhu, for bringing Teresa to program yesterday. I also want to thank all the leaders who conducted the various classes this week. His Grace Vaisesika Maharaj, Shivas Pandit Prabhu for the Bhaktivan program. We have Kautukarna Prabhu, Ek Chakran Pran Prabhu, Pauni, and Yasudhakar Prabhu, Chuck and Kennedy as well, who have been the leading Bhakti Circle team as well. So thanks everyone for all their support and guidance. And please share Mantra Zone. So Mantra Zone is a very simple program where it's primarily focused on meditation, kirtan, and a very light 10-15 minute talk. We do have one going on in Palo Alto and Mountain View, and we do plan to start after Janmashtami at Fremont and San Jose as well. And if you want to maybe start in your community, please do let us know. We'll be happy to share the content material to help newcomers make progress. So that was the announcement from Bhakti community. Thank you.
And now, as we're inching towards our goals, we have Malini Devi Dasi to tell us how we're going to make it, cross the finish line.
Hare Krishna. How will we make it? We are inching towards our goal, as Prabhu said. We have crossed our 1,000 Bhagavatam sets line already. We still have 2,000 more to go. But we have some good news coming from corporate team as well as Bhagavad Seva team, so that will help us to push towards our goal. But we will still have good chunk left, which we all can do together after Janmashtami. We can have full focus, and of course even before Janmashtami as well. Every weekend we are going out for book distribution, and we have some exciting things to share from last weekend. There was a Spanish Sankirtan team that was led by Adinath Krishna Prabhu, and we're also joined by, where is Tim and Vicky here? I saw Tim somewhere. Yes, Tim and Vicky. They also joined, and they went out on book distribution. After that, they had they came together. They had big feast of prasad. Prabhu, would you like to share?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, by the mercy of the previous devotees, including His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu and all the assembled devotees, we had a very nice, for the first time in here at least, ISV, first ever Spanish Sankirtan Sangha. And Satwa Prabhu, where are you? So he very nicely can recite Shastra from recollection on command. And so if you wouldn't please just recite it real quick here so we can tell the loving exchanges amongst the devotees, please. Yes. Come. With the translation, please.
The translation.
The 6 living exchanges.
Hare Krishna. The 6 living exchanges between devotees are offering gifts, accepting gifts, offering prasadam, accepting prasadam, and inquiring things confidentially and sharing confidential things. So these are the 6 living exchanges between devotees, as described in Nectar of Instruction, verse 4 by Rupa Goswami.
Thank you, Satwa Prabhu. So that was one of our goals in this Spanish Sankirtan Sangha to have these loving exchanges so that way we can get a Hridi Granta, or a not in the heart but in a good way. And so in this way we're able to closely associate with one another, and we can understand the mission better that way. So what's part of the mission? To systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. And in relation to that, the seventh purpose is to publish and distribute periodicals, books, magazines, and other writings in regards to the aforementioned purposes. So this makes it more clear for us. We get to know each other fast, and we can come together for a common cause. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Wow, that was so nice. Thank you so much for sharing. We also have different teams going out every weekend, and we get to hear from some teams. But today we are fortunate to have one representative from the Fremont Sankirtan team, Kameshwari, then Ramrati Prabhu, and Rampriya Prabhu. All three of them go every weekend. They don't miss a weekend. So today, Rampriya Prabhu, if you can please share some nectar from Fremont, some quick story that I know that one you shared on the Weekend Warriors was really good. So.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for allowing me to come and participate in book distribution. I'm very grateful to Kameshwari Mataji and Ramrati Prabhu. They are so good in distribution. I just touched the payment and come. Just wanted to share some story. So recently we gave one Bhagavatam set to one South Indian family. They were very receptive to get the Bhagavatam, and they invited us inside the home. And after a few weeks, they texted us that they have been reading Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and very thoroughly. And they are coming from very traditional South Indian Sri Sampradaya family. So she texted me saying that, I have been chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Now I want to go to the next level. Basically, I want to get initiated. How can I? And she was looking for guidance, more guidance. And also she had dilemmas about I come from Sri Sampradaya. My parents are initiated in that. How about this? So we were sharing the story about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, how Mahaprabhu actually, so she was very happy actually after hearing that story. So when we distribute Bhagavatam sets, I used to also have the doubt, hey, this is quite overwhelming. But when we hear time and again stories about like this, how it is transforming people who are accepting Bhagavatam, it is very encouraging. And we meet so many people like this week after week. So this is just one small story I wanted to share. And also I hear kids joining the Sankirtan trained by Kameshwari Mataji. Like for example, Shriyan, Shyam Jagannath Prabhu is here. I saw him morning. Yeah, so Shriyan shares such wonderful realizations, personally reading and sharing from Science of Self-Realization and so many books. The one person asked Shriyan, why should I take this book? Can you convince me? And Shriyan went on to explain from Science of Self-Realization why you should take to spirituality, right? Why? Can you accept God, right? You should not accept God blindly. There should be a reasoning. And why do you need a guru? And like that, he went on to explain. And that person was, how old are you? He said 10. He was taken aback. And so many experiences like that. So we highly encourage anybody who want to join any of the teams. It's a nice experience to have. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And there was also a success from the Central Valley Sankirtan team, led by Suvarna Gopika Mataji, Satyam Prabhu, and Momita Mataji. She's here today. They went last week to Manteca. It's about 2 hours from here. And there is a Hindu temple where when they went and they went with the books, The pujari said, I used to go to New York temple. And other pujari also is coming from Vrindavan Sampradaya. So they welcomed and they said, please come and set up table here every weekend. We welcome you. And there, when there was an installation ceremony. They installed Radha Krishna deities last week. So a lot of people came. And there was one small child whose parents were busy with other services at the temple and came at the book table and was looking at the Bhagavatam set all the time. And then her mom said, no, this is too many books. She went back, and the child would come back and say, tell me about this book. And then she would go back and say, tell me about this book. And Momita Mataji was explaining the Gajendra story. That was the first picture that came. And the girl was so fascinated, and she convinced her mom that I will promise that I will read the entire Bhagavatam set. Please take. So they were able to distribute the Bhagavatam set to that small child. So there's so many stories like this which melt our hearts. So everybody is looking for these books. And we also got a pre-order last weekend when we were at the Cupertino, India cash and carry. One lady came and she said, I've been listening to Bhagavatam so much, I wanted a Bhagavatam set. And she came and she saw the books. And the new set that we have, the German one, she said, this print is too small. I want a bigger print. So we had one sample of the old Bhagavatam set. And I said, this is the only display. We don't have the full set. She said, okay, I'll place an order. I want the full set delivered to my home. And fortunately, Achita Kumar Prabhu, he has a reservoir of all the books. His car is full of books, Bhagavatams. He happened to have one set left. We don't have it at the temple, so she took the Bhagavatam. She was so happy. So it was really, really nice. We distributed, I think, 15 Bhagavatam sets at the India Cash and Carry, and many sets in Cupertino, in Central Valley, as well as SKP Prabhu went to the Tri Valley as well. So please join one of these teams. And from Western Sankirtan spots, Prabhu Kautukana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So there are three spots today. King Mountain Art Fair, that is 20 miles away. You can join us. Then there is Millbrae Art and Wine. This is a very good festival. And the third spot is local. We can go to Mountain View downtown. So please join us for these teams. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. After hearing all the inspiring stories, how people love Krishna and how they're connected to Krishna. Now you know that they're part of Krishna and they are Krishna's special guest. And when they are coming to celebrate Krishna's appearance, Janmashtami, now it is our duty to welcome them with the best of our ability so that they feel special because they're Krishna's special guest. For that, I'm part of a Seva team, the parking Seva team. And we have made a elaborate arrangement, and we are expecting, of course, because the distribution that the way it is happening, we are expecting more and more devotees who love Krishna. So it is on our shoulders, the responsibility is to take care of them nicely. A quick, arrangement which we have made. There is an arrangement for the shuttle we are going to run from Atrium Business Center for most of the, devotees, those who are first time visiting. And then also we have a community center in the Mountain View. We have rented it out, so there would be parking there. We will run the shuttle from that location. For our own devotees, I think this is because most of you are already here. My humble request, I think we need a promise from you that on that day, from morning 4 o'clock Mangala Arati, 4:30 Mangala Arati, when the program will start, what we need to do is make sure the street is left for the newcomers. So what we have done for you, all of you, those who are here, we have made an arrangement with O'Reilly, Petco, and FedEx on that market complex which is there. The corner 2 lines we can fill in almost like 80 spots is there. So if all of us promise to park there, what will happen? If the street is empty, 1 car spot, you can serve at least 10 or 15 devotees by that, because people will come, they take the darshan, they go back. So I humbly request all of you, on your own one day, once in a year, just make a promise not to park anywhere in the street, and also on the word market. The word market business is we have been using, or maybe I should word abusing. And they're nice, and we have developed a good relationship. I went this time, and then, they were very thankful, but they also complained that on Sundays we really abuse it. So we need to make sure. So I promised them that we are going to place a person there who is going to take care that we will not let anybody park the car there, even the outsider, those who are going to come. We will take them to the Atrium Business Center. We have made arrangement for that. But if we need to park only after 8 p.m. onwards, when the program is over. And they also allowed us to even park 2 rows in their side. But we need to make it very careful. Our own congregation member, nobody will park in Word Market. And also in the 7-Eleven, because otherwise they're going to tow your car. So more be, corporate. I think the best experience we can give, because closer people come, they don't need to go to the shuttle and get back to here. So that is a humble request. All of you, please on one day, just park. And after evening, at 4 o'clock, when you come back in the day program, then we should go and park in the senior center. Because it may not be sufficient, because we have maybe 200 plus family members. So senior center, it's a public spot, and we go and park there. If you need to shuttle, please let us know, then we'll bring you back there. So only one day, 2 requests. In the morning time, do not park anywhere on the street throughout the day, and also in the school. School, we have reserved it only for the visitors, because they can walk to this location. We don't need to then serve them using a shuttle. So please cooperate. I really appreciate your help, and we are looking forward to serve all together. Krishna's special guest. Thank you.
This will be a real test of our sadhana bhakti, if we're able to follow Radhakripa Prabhu's instructions, as it'll make a success of the whole festival. We don't see it. It's the salt that you don't see in it that makes the preparation important, and it's the behind-the-scenes logistics that make everything go smoothly. The unsung heroes, Radhakripa Prabhu and his team, those who take care of shoes, those who are cleaning behind the scenes, they may be 3-4 blocks away, even further, taking care of people coming in. They're facilitating the successful execution of the glorification of Krishna on Janmashtami. And all glories to all of you who are doing those services. And also those who sacrifice their spot, whether it's parking or sitting for some guest who's coming here, comes once a year and just wants to sit for a little while and see Krishna. We'll try to make as much facility for those people as possible. They're the salt of the earth, the ones who come here for Krishna Janmashtami, so we should love them deeply and appreciate their presence. And now we'll hear what happened in the kitchen today.
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Koladweep Prana Prabhu, Simantani Saki Mataji, Divyanand Prabhu, Dhira Prashant Prabhu, Ujjvala Rasa Mataji, Shama Bhakta Prabhu, Siddha Katha Prabhu, and Malani Mataji.
Haribol! Anyone else? Anything else? Sharit Advijaja Jogandriya Ahika Vivekele Dishaya Shabhate Samadhi Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Brunch. We serve just outside. Correct? Picnic area. Go straight out of the door, take a sharp right, and you'll run right into it. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Hare